Welcome everyone to episode 1 of Winning Private Clients in 30 minutes. This is our first episode on building an elevator pitch that really works. So with no further ado, let me run through a little bit of housekeeping and introduce our wonderful guest for this morning. So just to let you know, we are recording this session this morning. Please do add in any questions you have. You can throw them in directly to the chat function and we'll pick them up for a Q&A at the end. So questions are so welcome. We really encourage you to throw those in. And finally, just so you know, we'll send through a follow-up email after this, either this afternoon or tomorrow, which will have the full recording in here, as well as booking links for the next 2 episodes of this series. So, who are we? My name is Simran. I'm the content and community lead at the moment here at Birdie, which basically just means I get to have all kinds of interesting conversations with people like Rachel and experts from the industry across the country to try and kind of produce the most useful resources for you guys as we possibly can. That's what's really important to us here at Birdie, being as useful as we can. And Rachel is an MME account executive, also based here at Birdie. Rachel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, really excited to be here. I've been working at Birdie for nearly 5 years now, working with hundreds of partners of all different, sizes. Really excited to see how we do today.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So lovely. Let me just quickly introduce who we are here at Birdie as well. So if you've not heard of us, hello, hi, we're Birdie. We're going to run through this in about 2 minutes. We are the smarter technology provider for the social care sector. So basically, where did we come from? Our mindset is that everyone in the social care sector is working just about as hard as they possibly can. And we're here to say that, well, when you can't work any harder, let's see if there's any way that we can help you to work a little bit smarter. How can we help you have the tightest operations, the best oversight, and to be as possibly connected as you can be? We see the way that the kind of social care tech sector has evolved. Started with paper, which works wonderfully for so many people. It moved on to that first generation of software providers, which basically turned paper into something on a computer. And then the next stage, which is what we're trying to offer, is smart software that really makes everything you're doing as easy as it can be so you can focus on what really matters. We've got a whole bunch of kind of like tools and options. This is the heart of our project. We want you to be able to see absolutely everything and miss nothing. We want you to find it easy to have everyone and everything working together. And we don't want you to ever have to feel alone again. Part of the reason why we run events like this and have our brilliant kind of community platform called Flock, which is the social network for the social care sector. This is all the stuff that we offer: 5 products, 3 apps, 3 promises. I'm not going to get into it today. If you do want to get into it, please head straight to our website, or we'll pop a link in the chat as well a little bit later. You can book a demo with one of our amazing sales reps who will just tell you a little bit more about what Birdie has to offer and if we're a match. But let's get into it. So, what are we talking about today? Building an elevator pitch that works. We've pulled this from our really kind of much loved in-person events, Winning Private Clients, which we kind of tour the country with. And one of the bits of feedback we've got is that this like summary of how to build an elevator pitch for your care agency is one of the most useful things that people have to take home from those workshops. I just want to let you know that there are 2 more episodes in this series as well. So one's 2 weeks from now and one's 2 weeks after then. Episode 2, and more details on this later, is on getting your team ready for growth. And episode 3 is on making referrals work for you. So if you're interested in those, we'll pop the links to book those directly in the chat. All 3, we'll be recording all of them. So you can just book, send you the recording later. But we'd love to see you there live as well, if you happen to be free. So, Rachel, let's get into the stuff that really matters. I understand that the first tip you wanted to share with us was know who you're pitching to. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Yes, absolutely. So this, I would say, is probably the first and one of the most important tips to a successful pitch, is really understanding who it is you're actually pitching to. So what pitch might work for one person, might not work for another. So it's all about empathy and really understanding who it is that we're speaking with. So when you have that kind of genuine understanding of that other person's world, you're not really selling anymore, you're really problem solving. So you can go to the next slide. So what I'll just tell you is there's two kind of common examples that we have here. So the first example that we have is the concerned daughter, and the second is the GP. So for example, what we've got here is the concerned daughter. So as you can see, her emotional state could be that she's probably feeling very overwhelmed, feeling quite guilty, and quite protective of their parent. Maybe her biggest fears is that she's really scared of making that wrong choice, losing control of her mother's care and, her dignity as well. So she's probably feeling she's in this very like crisis driven mode at the moment and kind of needs that reassurance. So really the language when we're speaking potentially to a concerned daughter could be that we're focusing really on safety, trust and partnership. So really showing that you're not just a service provider, but you're really a partner in the mother's well-being. Whereas on the other hand, we have the GP. So this will look very, very different in terms of the pitch, because obviously they're a healthcare professional. So their mindset will be very different because it's very based on, risk management and patient outcomes, for example. And as we know, GP, they're very time pressured and need to see, a lot of, evidence-based results. So potentially their main concerns will be, that duty of care, continuity of treatment, and obviously reducing like hospital readmissions. So I think when it comes to the language with the GP, it's quite important that it's obviously very professional, that we're thinking about, clinical outcomes here as well, that partnership approach and having, the kind of risk reduction and also helping them, increase efficiency there as well. So you can see obviously here, like not one size fits all approach would work here. The concerned daughter needs, more of that emotional connection, potentially more reassurance, whereas the GP will need more kind of data and clinical confidence. So really taking the time to understand your audience and who you're speaking with will be that core foundation of when you're create with that pitch. So you can really connect to that person that you're speaking with and hopefully convert as well.
That's so interesting. And thank you for sketching that out, Rachel. I wonder if like one way of using that would be, and this is me as like someone with a background in marketing, right? But the thing is, winning private clients often is like an act of marketing. It's an act of like communication. Like you might start building out some what like you call in marketing personas, right? Like you might imagine, say, like who are your three like typical types of people you might be pitching to. And you could use this exact structure here of like, what's their emotional state? What are their key fears? What's their decision timeline? What's the language that resonates? You could call them like, oh, I don't know, like Abid, Max, and Judy to pick three people from the team at Birdie. And you could imagine what each of those people might be. One is like a concerned daughter, one is somebody planning ahead for their own care or something, and one as someone who's just had a need thrust upon them and is trying to handle it. I think this exact structure here of like emotional state slash mindset, fears slash concerns, decision timeline, and what language they work is just such a brilliant breakdown. So thank you so much
Yeah.
for this. Wonderful. Shall we go on to our second tip? Because I think the thing is, it's great to know who you're pitching to, right? And to spend that time, if you have it, kind of really trying to understand what might be going on inside their head or what the different kinds of audiences you're speaking to in your area with the type of services that you're offering is. But in the end, the real juice of this is, well, how do you get your message across? And I understand that's what tip two is about from you.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got the who, which is the first tip, and the how is tip two. Exactly. So we're going to go through a very easy 5-step kind of framework formula to really, really help this. So it's designed to create a very natural and kind of persuasive conversation. So it's not meant to be this kind of high pressured sales pitch. It's meant to be a kind of roadmap that, guides you from a genuine opener to a very clear next step with whoever it is that you're speaking with as well. So we'll run through the framework together on the next slide. Perfect. So the first section that we have is the opener. So this is where you can really show a genuine interest in them and their situation. So really importantly here that it won't be about you and your services. It's really about them. So what we really recommend here is asking very like open-ended questions like who, what, when, how, for example. So that really helps open up that conversation, and that will build a lot of rapport and trust from the very beginning. The next section that we have is really addressing the specific challenges or needs that we can actually, that you would be able to support with and that you can help with. So this can really be based on what you've heard. You can now tailor your pitch to, obviously their specific problems. So this shows that you've been listening, that you understand that their world, for example, and you're not just obviously listing services here, you're offering solutions obviously to their problems as well. The third section we have is really how you can help. So again, this is sort of similar to the second, but it's really connecting the kind of challenges, their challenges to your services. So it's really explaining how you can really specifically help them. And obviously what we recommend here is like using a lot of their language, for example, so that I'm really thinking about the kind of outcomes and benefits. And then the fourth section we have on here is really articulating what makes your care service different from others. So this, for example, could be that your care service really values like consistencies and having the same carers for a client to build that relationship, for example. And this feeds really nicely into the credibility marker. This can be actually really a crucial step to build a lot of trust. So this will obviously show that you're very credible and obviously a reliable service. So a credibility marker could be, for example, a statistic. It could also be your CQC rating, for example, or even a story or a testimonial, for example, from a client as well. And the last section we have on here is a bit of a juicy bonus and thinking about the kind of call to action here. So again, we don't want this to be like a hard sell. It needs to feel like a really natural next step to continue that conversation. So it could be, for example, to offer a more in-depth conversation, maybe over coffee, maybe sending them some information if you were to send an email, potentially incorporating a kind of recap of your conversation with sort of like different challenges that you've discussed, what the outcomes could be, and how you can obviously support them with their care as well. So it's just really keeping that door open.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And I understand that you have an example to share with us because I'd love to see what this really looks like when you kind of like break it down and just see what it looks like in practice.
Absolutely. We'll go on to the next slide. So I've taken the example here of the concerned daughter for this perfect pitch, so we can see what this really, really looks like in practice. So the natural opener could be, how is your mum getting on at home? I imagine it must be a lot on your mind. So this is a very soft, empathetic opener that obviously shows that you really care there as well. The problem recognition could be, I speak with many families who are constantly juggling their own lives while worrying if mum is safe at home, whether she's eating properly, taking medication, or feeling lonely and confused. So this really shows that you understand their specific worries. Then you can go into obviously the solution bridge. So we help by providing flexible support that starts where your mum is comfortable. So building around what she actually needs rather than forcing her into that rigid care package. And then we've got the unique differentiator, which could be, what makes our approach different is consistency. The same carer builds a genuine relationship with your mum, and we include her in every decision because it's her life and her choices. Then we've got a credibility marker here. So we've actually just put a statistic. So, for example, our families give us a 98% satisfaction score or rate. And then we've got the value here. That could be for both, here in the case for the daughter and for the mum. So for your mum, this means staying safely in our own home with dignity. For you, it means getting your life back. No more rushing over at lunchtime or sleepless nights wondering if she's okay. And then we've got a really nice natural close here, which is, I'd love to chat more about your mum's specific, situation over coffee. Are you free sometime this week? Okay, so it's really showing this is like a very gentle, empathetic. It focuses on obviously the daughter's needs, but also the mother's well-being here with this pitch as well. So it's a perfect example of how, this kind of framework can be adapted to create a very powerful and also personal connection with who you're, speaking with there as well.
Mm, that's so, so helpful. Thank you, Rachel. And I really love that. I feel like something we're really saying here is that, like, in the end, it doesn't need to be that complicated. Like, it's really useful to have a structure, but in the end, the structure is there to help you say what you need to say. and to help you like connect with the person who's there in front of you in that room or on the other side of a phone call, perhaps more likely. Um,
Exactly.
maybe one thing
Exactly.
that, oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say exactly. It's really like making that person feel really, really heard and who you're speaking with as well. And I think using a lot of their language and really matching back to their situation will help create a lot of trust and that credibility there as well.
That makes so much sense. I love how you emphasize helping the other person to feel heard. I think it can be so easy when you think about pitching or when you think about like trying to find more clients that you're trying to like get your message out and say like, hey, this is who we are and this is what makes us different, which is so important and is very much a part of the structure. But in the end, I think so often something we hear all the time from social care agencies of all sizes is that it's when your clients feel heard that there's so often they want to go forward and work with you. I know that's true in all kinds of other contexts as well, that building that genuine connection and understanding, well, not only is that going to maybe set you up to know if you actually can offer this person the service they need, it's also going to say the obvious, but also it helps them to understand that you might be really there on their side, there to help them. It's kind of the opposite of a hard sell in an odd way. It's like a soft listen, if that makes any sense.
No, it does make a lot of sense. And I think it's so, so, so important. Definitely, definitely. Yeah.
Wonderful. Let us keep it moving in that case. Oh, and just to share with everyone this call, we'll be sending over these slides with the follow up emails. You'll have this for reference. Of course, to maybe I imagine you might not want to copy this word for word the next time you get a phone call, but we hope it might be useful as a starter for kind of your own way of doing this, just as an example. Brilliant. Tip number 3, Rachel, I know you've got some kind of key mistakes and possible things to do instead.
Yes. So we've obviously looked at the who, the how, but I think it's also really important that we understand like, and these are very common mistakes that we hear very often. So what can we actually avoid here when we are, doing this pitch? And yeah, go for the next slide. So the first kind of problem is like what you really don't want to do is reel off your list of services straight away. Instead, it's really important that we focus on the outcomes and the benefits for the person that we're speaking with. From the start, they won't necessarily want to know all of your list of services straight away. I think what's really, really important with anyone is that they really want to understand how it is that you can solve their problems and how you can support, them or their parent, for example, in the context with the concerned daughter, and how we can support them as well. The second common mistake that we hear is a very generic opening. So going in and saying, for example, can I tell you about our care agency? Can I tell you about our list of services? It's really important, as we said, to start with their problems, not the solution straight away. So taking that time to ask genuine questions at the beginning on how best we can support them, what their needs are, is going to be really, really important here. And also that premature close. I think this one's really, really easy to, and that can happen. So yeah, very easily. I think it's really important that you don't want to necessarily always close the deal in the first conversation. Getting a follow-up booked in can, build a lot of trust there as well. And really what you want this to be is the start of the conversation, the start of hopefully a partnership, not the end of one there as well. And finally, one of the common mistakes that I often hear is the kind of credential overload. So giving almost too many credibility markers or even a lot at the beginning. You don't want to overdo it here. You want to even, keep it really, really focused on them at the beginning, maybe introduce them a little bit more towards the end or sprinkle these throughout. I think that's really, really important. So just, keeps it really nice and natural, and you're listening to them, building that trust and that rapport there as well. So yeah, these are I would say a lot of kind of common mistakes to avoid here. And once you overcome all of these, you'll really sound a lot very genuine, very professional, and a lot more effective there as well.
Hmm. I love the way you approach this, Rachel. Thank you so much for this. I feel like all the way through what you're saying is like put the individual, like put the potential client first, rather than necessarily like everything that it's not that what you have to say and what you have to share isn't important, but it's that, hey, from that person's perspective, they're coming to you to help get some support in their life, to help them tackle something that's really challenging. And they want you to be there to hear it, to understand like, hey, like what possible outcomes what other options are there for how this situation, how this like challenge or bit of support that I need could be handled. Like, what is it that like my like problem, so to speak? It's not problem in the sense of something that needs to be fixed, but problem in the sense of something you're trying to, yeah, make sense of or make work. You're not like pushing them into that like hard sell. It's instead like, hey, do you want to have another conversation about this when the time is right? And then finally, with the credential overload, it's not all about like, hey, this is like everything that we are. These are all the reasons you should trust us. It's like, hey, if you want to understand the reasons why we're trustworthy, here's the stuff that you need to know. Like, here's enough for your reference. There's more we can tell you about if you need it, rather than throwing everything at that person. Instead,
Absolutely.
putting their experience first. I know
Absolutely.
from my own experience that sometimes it's when you're looking for care in these moments, or when you're and trying to seek this kind of support, maybe for the first time as well. I think, as is so often the case, um, you really want it to be like a gentle, kind of calm process where someone is meeting you where you're at, rather than trying to pull you to whatever it is that they have to offer.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, absolutely. And I think also with the credibility markers, I do think stories here are really, really powerful. They'll be, they're going through something that's probably really, really hard in, their day to day with their lives. And I'm sure you care for so many different people in your agencies as well. So having those different stories can help them feel, like they're not alone and you have all been through this before, and that you understand what their situation and how best you can support them as well.
Absolutely. It makes me think. I know one thing we really hit here from our in-person winning private clients events is how useful people find it to just be in a room with other social care providers who are facing exactly the same challenges and trying to find ways to frame their services. And we know more and more how like having a larger private client base can be so crucial to just staying financially sustainable in the kind of care economy that we're in right now. And I'd really, really recommend to anyone here, do keep an eye out for our next in-person winning private clients event. Not even necessarily so you can hear anything that like we have to say, and we always have a couple of expert speakers from social care agencies share and give a presentation on what's working from them, but also just to be in the room with other providers who are doing the same thing, sharing advice with each other, sharing tips. There's normally a bit of lunch or breakfast involved where people chat, and I know people find it so helpful just to share those experiences with each other. So that would be my bonus top tip is see if you can find a space where you can talk to other social care providers if you're not already doing it, of course. And that's just what our in-person winning private clients events are for. And now I think we may have to keep things moving. Just conscious of everybody's time this morning. We've only got 7 minutes left for this mini webinar. I don't know if we have any questions in the chat today, but I will just like throw this out to the room. If anyone does have any questions, now is your moment. Please do pop them in now. I can see one coming in as we speak. Let me just flash that up for you. So the question is, hi Rachel, how would you turn around to get a follow-up booked in when the concerned daughter closes the conversation prematurely, saying they'll get back to us in a telephone inquiry? I suppose you imagine a client calls and then something comes up and they hang up halfway through the conversation saying, oh, I'll call you back if I can. Any
Yeah,
thoughts on what? Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, well, obviously it depends, like obviously if you've got an email, for example, if you do have their email address, maybe what would be really, really good is sending them a follow-up email at least and just saying, this is what I've understood from our conversation. This is how best that we could support as well. And that I think will really, really like help them feel again, really, really heard from the conversation that you've had there as well. And obviously giving them that space to be able to get back in touch with you. Obviously maybe give it a little bit of time, but if you don't always hear follow up, maybe give them another call like the following week just to catch up with them and just say, have you found the packet support that you need? Is there anything that we can help with, for example? And I'm sure they would obviously appreciate that call back as well, and that you're checking in there too.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. I know one thing that we often recommend. I think we have a template in our like resources page as well, which I'll see if I can send out with the follow up email. Is a kind of like almost like an easy CRM system, just like an easy way of keeping like people's data organized, so that when these situations come up, you have it all organized and they're on your list to do for next week, rather than it being, oh my gosh, here are all of these different phone calls. This one is halfway through, that one's halfway through. just kind of a simple way of keeping track of that. Oh, I can see there's a follow-up question coming through as well. What's the ideal time frame for a follow-up? Do you have any thoughts on that, Rachel?
Ooh, I think this obviously can really depend on the conversation that you've had and, how the conversation has progressed. But it's a tricky one. I don't necessarily think there's necessarily any rules. Maybe at least give maybe 2, 3 days before following up on another phone call. But yeah, definitely you can send that email if you've got their email address. After that conversation, I'd probably say on the day of, with just at least a recap of what you've discussed and what you've heard and how you can support with them as well.
Sounds really wise. And I know one thing we often hear is that sometimes it varies so much from like client base to client base that it can even be good just to see what works for you, right? Maybe for a period of a few weeks, you do any of your follow ups straight away, or maybe for a period of a few weeks, you try it a bit slow and you see what happens. Could be another approach to take, but that sounds very wise from everything that I've heard. I can see one or two more questions coming in, but unfortunately, we're running quite close for time. So I might just need to bring us through to wrap this up. Oh, I can see one person asking for a link to our resources page. I'm just going to ask, we actually have another Rachel in the chat from Birdie. If she could share our resources page with the chat, that would be amazing. Thank you. So, just a quick wrap up here. First out, do keep an eye out for the full recording in your inbox. We'll send this through as well as those extra resources that we've mentioned and these slides. Do keep an eye out for the rest of the series, more on that shortly. And finally, if you are interested in how Birdie might be able to help make any of these things a little bit easier, you can go straight on our website, birdie.care is plenty, and you'll find our book a demo link where you can just basically have a conversation with someone who can help you work out if Birdie is a match for whatever it is that you need. Just a quick shout out to those 2 next episodes. We've pulled like all the most valuable stuff from our like kind of big in-person morning long event into these 3 mini webinars. So in 2 weeks, we've got Nicholas Lee from Care Business Advisors, and he'll be talking on how to get your team ready to grow. And then 2 weeks after that, we've got Clem from Birdie as well, focusing on how to make referrals work for you. We know that like having a team that's ready to grow is so helpful. It means that when that growth happens, you're not left scrambling and then worried about your quality of care. And we know that a really effective and biggest possible referral network can be one of the biggest sources of clients, especially long-term clients, who might be exactly what you need to help your business stay sustainable. Other than that, all that remains for me to say is thank you so much, Rachel, for everything you've shared today. And thank you so much to everybody for coming through today. We hope to see you at episodes 2 and episodes 3. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Lovely to meet everyone. Have a lovely day. Take care.
Wonderful. Take care, everyone. Bye bye. Thank you.